even though it might seem really incidental that you're just giving away a chair or a toaster, you know, something very small, collectively it has a really huge impact, and it's a really great thing to do. And there are just so many benefits to reuse above recycling. And really anything that's legal can get freegulled. Yeah. So no guns, no drugs.
Babies, children and babies.
I know, that's bad terminology. Yeah. No, we try to make that accessories and toys and clothing rather than actual human beings. But the figure I showed you before about how 62% of all waste in the local areas from the construction industry was great impetus for me to get involved with a local architect called Duncan Baker Brown, who's based in Lewis. And this house was already designed and had been built once in London back in 2008 with Mr. Grand Designs, Kevin McLeod, and it was built out of straw bales and prefabricated materials, so it was a very low waste house because of the materials and the methods used. When Duncan went to rebuild the house in Brighton, he didn't want to repeat the exact same thing because that was kind of a bit boring. It took him 4 years to get the funding and a bit of land to do it. And when I met Duncan in 2012, the council had referred him to me and said, oh, you should talk to Kat. She does all this crazy stuff about trying to get things reused in the city. And yeah, we just had one meeting and came up with the idea of building the whole house out of waste. And I convinced him that I'd be able to procure enough materials for it to be a viable project, that it could be, you know, run by a proper tradesman and all the rest of it. So that's the finished house there. And this is what we were trying to address. So the construction industry is also the demolition industry. And because of the way buildings have been constructed, traditionally for hundreds of years in the UK, they're very difficult to dismantle and to reuse the components, and so we have a lot of demolition, which is why that waste figure is really big for the construction industry. But we also, in a normal building project, they used to over-order materials by 15%, for example, as complete standard, and that was just so if something went wrong on site, they could immediately have the extra materials there. So we sort of just wanted to challenge the way that everything was done in the construction industry. So what did we use to build it? We used lots of really ordinary construction materials like plywood and nuts and bolts and wiring and all sorts of things, paint and filler and plaster and all the things you'd normally use. But the unique feature of the house is that the interior walls are incredibly deep and they're divided into compartments, so of different widths, but all the walls in the house, and those compartments are filled with toothbrushes and videotapes and plastic toys and all sorts of things. And most of the things inside the compartments on the walls are actually unrecyclable, or they're obsolete technology and they're highly toxic. If they can be recycled, they have to go a long way for that to happen, and then they're highly toxic anyway. Why we've got toothbrushes in there is because everyone can relate to a toothbrush, everybody uses one. We manufacture 35 billion a year around the world. It's kind of a bit nuts. And 99.99999% of them are made out of plastic, and most of them in the Western world are made out of 4 types of plastic, so it's actually completely impossible to recycle them, to separate the types of plastic. In Brighton and Hove, we go through about 1 million every year. So they're in there just to highlight, to make people think about their toothbrush, and I know it's really silly, but if everybody bought a bamboo toothbrush, or bought toothbrushes where you could change the end, your thing, it's a really simple thing to do, they're easily available, we'd really, really reduce a lot of the unnecessary waste that has to be managed. Yeah, so it's kind of an example of that. And I've got a slide in there because you think, well, why did you put denim jean legs in there, and where the heck did you get 2 tons of denim jean legs from? Like, what a weird thing to do. As it turns out, there's a shorts factory in Yorkshire that imports 20 tons of very cheap denim jeans every single year, and it chops all the legs off. It has 12 tons of denim jean legs every year that goes to waste, and that's how they make their shorts. So before I ever did the waste house, they kind of found out about me somehow. I have 100,000 followers on social media, so people approach me all the time. What can I do about this? Da, 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 da. And they just said to me, like, I've got 12 tons of denim legs. What do you think we can do with that? Because it's getting really expensive to landfill it now. So I help them just find local art projects, and there's actually an insulation company in Yorkshire that uses denim to make really fabulous insulation, and I saved them a packet of money, and they changed the whole way that they dealt with their waste, and they sent me 2 tons of denim jean legs as a thank you. So that's why they're in there. And in all these compartments in the house, we also have very, very high-tech monitors, and on the walls, they're actually taking readings from what's going on inside the compartments. So it's not just a novelty doing all of this, we're actually trying to gather data and find out, you know, actually, could you insulate your house with videotapes if they were encapsulated in fireproof cassettes? And there's some of the videotapes. You'll be amused to know that when I asked for videotapes in the local Freegal group, trying to gather them and collect enough, I got 50,000 of them. And to this day, people still send them in jiffy bags to the University of Brighton. The cat, you know, the waste house. So excited that they think something useful can be done with the videotape. So there's lots of lovely, funny things that have come out of the waste house. It's been open for 2.5 years now, so it's the most publicised, the most award-winning project ever at the University of Brighton, and according to the Dean, it's the only building that came in on budget, on time, and without a legal court case following it. So she's all up for doing another one, and we're just trying to find the energy. But it's clad in carpet tiles, and the reason for that is we send 400,000 tonne of carpet to landfill every year. And most carpet, apart from very high-end or very expensive carpet, is actually plastic. Plastic never goes away. Even when you recycle it, whenever you do anything to it, all plastic that's ever been made in the planet still exists in some form somewhere. So it's just, it's ways of highlighting all these things. And the Royal Institute of British Architects thought that it was a pretty cool idea, and they actually created us, apart from winning a real REBA award, they actually created a one-off special award that they gave us as extra in 2015, and so we set up a really nice project at the university for students graduating to apply to win some money and do the right thing. Quickly just going to tell you about the stuff at the council, because I know time's going on and it's late and blah blah blah. But it's very interesting, because for all the really hopelessness around recycling in Brighton and Hove, we are actually really fabulous at reuse, but reuse doesn't have to be measured legally, it doesn't have targets. There's just no standards that gather all the data together that value it. But really luckily, I managed to convince the council quite a few years ago that they actually didn't need to put all this stuff in a skip and embarrass themselves and be really wasteful. And yeah, I did this pilot for them, and lots of things are very challenging. I actually work with teams in the office to declutter and go through all their stuff. Because if I leave them to it, they just bin everything and tie a big, really tight knot in it, and then that's job done. So a lot of the time I spend going around undoing all those really tight knots and discovering all the reusable stuff in the bins. But over the years, the staff really love it now because they see it in real life. I'm really there and I sort everything out, and they see hundreds of people turning up to the council building, picking up ring binders or drawers or desks or filing cabinets. En masse, you know, there's a lot of logistics, a lot of craziness and organising that has to be done, and there are just things in such volume that is can be quite overwhelming, and it's not sexy and it's not glamorous, and it's just really ordinary everyday stuff, but I get to redistribute this to just residents like yourself, businesses, charities, artists. There's Felix at the top, who thought it was completely normal to pick up the 2-drawer metal filing cabinet on a BMX bike and take it home. And we use an online system, which is like the business version of Freegal. So it has all the legal bells and whistles in there if you're a local authority or a corporate or whatever, and it's exactly the same thing, and it measures all the outcomes. And then I did the Hove Town Hall in 2014, so 138 tonnes of stuff was intercepted from going to waste and redistributed. It creates economic value in the city, and also really importantly, it's just great goodwill. And reuse involves social interaction. It's not so much a chore, it's more kind of exciting. People are either excited because they can get rid of something, hurrah, or they're really excited because they can get something and they haven't had to spend a lot of money. And so it's kind of a feel-good thing. And it's a lovely job because I just literally, it's pretty manic and it's pretty non-stop, but I just literally get to meet people from all walks of life, all day, every day. And that's where I've just come from before I came here. And I'm not sure how many hundreds of tons of stuff we're going to get out of there. But I've been in there all year, and it's a really massive task. It's very satisfying. We don't have any skips, they've had no more waste bins than they normally would. And by employing me all year, actually saves the council £35,000 on what their waste disposal costs would be if I wasn't redistributing all that stuff for free. And so it's really working towards a circular economy. If you remember right back at the beginning, before I went on for too long, we had the linear economy. Well, we just really need to rethink how we do everything. And so we're talking about who's responsible for waste and materials and packaging. And you know, producers have a massive, huge responsibility, and we need to pressure them. And you know, I think not one person or sector is totally responsible. We all are, and we all need to work together. And as consumers, buy better, buy less. Yeah, right to a company that overpackages something. Yeah, sometimes I take all my packaging off as well in the supermarket, you know, because I just get cranky. Do all of that. And there are big people lobbying. You know, there's all sorts of things going on around the world to try and make us not so wasteful, and to get all that activity up to the top of the waste hierarchy so that we just don't have so much waste to manage. That's me.
Thank you.
That's all right. I can save that as a PDF as well, and you're just welcome to share it, you know, if you want any of the facts or figures or anything like that. And if anybody would like to visit the Waste House in Brighton, that can be arranged. So it's quite fabulous to go there because it's a real building, and you know, yeah, it's engaging, and then it's kind of meaningful.
Any questions for Kat?
I think we should organise a visit to the Waste House. I've been and had the tour at part of the festival, and it's an amazing building, and it's also actually really beautiful.
It is really beautiful, and we have
The
solar
Waste House
panels, and we
doesn't
create 40% more energy than we actually use, and it could be deconstructed if we wanted to deconstruct it in the future. So we kind of thought about the impacts of it. Yeah, and I think sometimes it's just good to touch and feel something and it not be like the weirdness. So you're welcome to tee that up with me sometime. Yeah.
Yeah, I work at Sussex Uni, and we, you know, get rid of disgusting amount of stuff. I mean, do you have a link up with them, or you do? Yeah.
Yeah. So you just demolished a building there, a fabulous 1960s building. So that was full of furniture. I mean,
real nice.
Maybe like,
It's nice, that furniture from the 60s.
Yeah, so it's about
Basil
350
Spencer.
rooms full of furniture. The building's been unoccupied. This is an example of why waste happens. It's been unoccupied for 1 year. Every single room rammed with furniture for that whole year. 5 weeks before they're going to demolish it, they ring me up. Yeah, we're just wondering, like, would you be able to come over and do something with all this furniture? Well, I mean, I could, and I gave them a quote and all of that, but they actually chose. So there are companies that have big industrial rollers, and they come into buildings like that, and they literally just crush the furniture with rollers. So yeah, that's what they decided to do.
Sad.
Yeah, but I lecture there sometimes, and I know like the head of facilities and all of that.
Right.
So there's a lot of things going on.
That gives me a bit of.
Yeah.
But there needs to be more people like you, I guess, more
Yeah,
companies like
so
you, just
yeah,
so to
that's
handle
fine.
the volume.
Yeah.
Oh, so another house you've built. Have you done any work with actual construction firms about them being able to take any of the ideas that you've used there and sort of upscale it in any way?
Yeah. So lots of really big construction companies got in touch with us. They weren't actually very interested in it in the 2 years when we were developing it and building it. But when it opened, and you know, it was in the Guardian, and actually it went all around the world. It went viral. It went crazy. So then we got approached by everyone. So Wilmot Dixon and Piers and all the really big development companies and the architects. Myself have had big conversations with them, and they absolutely appreciate all the things that we were pointing out to them, and yeah, they are trying to work in a different way, and the construction industry is less wasteful now in 2016 than it was in 2010, and not necessarily because everyone cares about the planet or people, but a lot of that's financially driven, but I'm so glad it's not me. It's great. Somebody's reading you. Unbelievable. Yeah, I think, yes. Yeah, and you know, and we get to go to all the really big construction shows around the UK every year and give talks. I mean, I've been to America to talk about the Waste House. Yeah, so, yeah, it gets noticed, and it was a real nudge, really, because, of course, people build houses out of waste as well all over the world, but none of them pass building regulations and have full planning permission and are safe to live in. So, yeah, we weren't sidelined.
Plastics get such bad press. But presumably, actually, the process of recycling plastics to be reused, if it's done properly, is actually quite an efficient process, isn't it?
The problem is, though, you can only recycle plastic 1 or 2 times, and then the quality of it is reduced so much that there's very little that you can actually make with it that's useful. And that's why the quality of recyclate is really important, because when the goods we recycle get to the processing plant, they have to really go for the highest quality, or otherwise it's like kind of a useless recycled product. Plastic is like the most awesome material in the world, and that's why we make so much stuff out of it, but we've actually misapplied it. That's the thing, is we just don't know when to stop. So I go to events all the time, not here, where you could easily be drinking out of a glass and someone could be washing it up, and they just have widespread disposable plastic. And most cafes now in London, you go into a sit-down cafe and they give you your coffee in a takeaway cup with a plastic lid. And, you know, we could have real crockery and people could be paid to wash it up. So I think we've just gone bonkers, you know, with what we make out of plastic and packaging. Sheesh, you know. Wow. And I don't know, but you know, I'm not a spring chicken either. And do you know, we managed all through the 60s, 70s and 80s without carrying around bottles of drinking water. Like, we didn't die of dehydration. You know, really, you know, life was okay. And if you were thirsty, you asked someone for a cup of water, or you may have bought a drink. But more often than not, because we have quite nice, sophisticated lives, there's actually not that long between at your office, your home, or, you know, a nice venue where refreshments are provided. So, like, why do we all carry around bottled water in plastic like we're in the Sahara or something? Like, there's a whole lot of weird things that have happened, you know, whereas it's just completely normal now, isn't it? You know, having bottled water and you get through the day. Yeah.
And of course, it's been pointed out that the quality of the water that comes out of the taps is often better than that's in the bottles.
Yeah. Anyway, I better get off this stage.
Can I ask one last
Sure.
question, which is how you are replicating yourself? You've got apprentices.
I have 3 children.
There's one of you for this whole area.
Yeah.
There's such knowledge.
So I just actually won a national innovation competition where my application said, I am so sick of funding opportunities for innovation. Like, what I do is not innovative at all. It's just so basic, you know, it could make you cry. And there's no funding for just really common sense, hands-on, labour-intensive, let's knuckle down. And reuse involves labour and people. You know, you can't industrialise it, you can't build a reuse factory. And I bloody won. So anyway, wrote me away. I was really just like, I'm so sick of all of this. And I had to go to Lancaster. It took me 250 quid in train fares. It took me 9 hours or something to get there and 7 hours to get back, and I just wanted to like... so it was quite ecstatic when I won, because I didn't expect to at all. I had to give a presentation to the head of Heathrow, the head of RBS, facilities, Sainsbury's, like just some small fry businessmen. Anyway, and everybody else there was selling a really high-tech, really clever, innovative thing. So I'm going to be working with them next year because they've identified that they have mountains of polystyrene, because most of their waste is from the IT department. All the IT equipment comes in beautiful recyclable cardboard boxes filled with unrecyclable polystyrene. So you didn't make it up. And I'm doing a project now with Brighton Uni and a fashion designer with plastic waste from the council, and we're making sunglasses and spectacle frames. And most office plastic, like in trays, is actually polystyrene. It's type 5 plastic. So, you know, I'll try and do something like that. I don't know, I think there are people like me all over the UK that, you know, you just don't hear about them unless you're in that little local area. And, you know, Dave's going to tell you about National Wood Recycling. I think there's 26 of them or something around the UK. 28? Yeah, so there are amazing social enterprises and crazy grassroots knee-jerk reaction solutions out there. So just grab the ones that are in your local area, I reckon.
Kat, I think we must move on
I
now,
know.
but I don't suppose anybody in the room is the least surprised that you won a national award.
Oh.
Thank you very much
My
indeed.
pleasure.